On her deathbed, Ada's mother clung to her daughter's hand, her once vibrant hair now dull and brittle, her body frail and ravaged by time. "Ada," she rasped, her voice barely a whisper, "promise me, don't let her take your hair." Ada's heart raced. "Mama, what are you saying?" she cried, her young voice trembling with fear and confusion. Her mother gasped, her breath shallow. "She lives through it," she choked out. "She'll take your life next." Before Ada could respond, her mother's hand fell limp, leaving her with a haunting fear she was too young to understand. In a secluded African village, nestled between dense forests and murmuring rivers, there lived a young girl named Ada. Raised by her grandmother, Mama Nea, Ada's life was a mix of love, tradition, and whispers of mystery. Her mother had died when she was just a child, leaving Mama Nea as her sole guardian. Ada's hair was the talk of the village, long, silken, and impossibly lustrous. It shimmered in the sunlight, growing at an unnatural pace that left everyone in awe. But even more remarkable than Ada's hair was Mama Nea herself. Despite being rumored to be over a century old, she had the vibrant appearance of a woman in her 20s. The villagers admired and feared Mama Nea in equal measure. To some, she was blessed by the ancestors. To others, she was a figure cloaked in old magic, her beauty a product of something unnatural. Ada adored her grandmother. Mama Nea had raised her with care, brushing and braiding her hair every evening while sharing tales of their ancestors. Yet, as Ada grew older, unease began to creep in. Questions lingered in the back of her mind, questions that her grandmother's warm smile couldn't dispel. One evening, as the fire crackled softly in their small, cozy home, Mama Nea gently combed Ada's hair, humming an ancient lullaby. The room was bathed in the warm, golden glow of the flames. Ada hesitated, her voice quiet but firm. "Mama, can I ask you something?" Mama Nea's smile didn't falter. "Of course, my child." "What is it?" Ada bit her lip, her words tumbling out in a rush. "How is it that you're still so young? Everyone else in the village grows older, but you haven't changed. Not for as long as I can remember." For a moment, Mama Nea's hand stilled. Then, with a calmness that only deepened Ada's unease, she resumed combing. "It's nothing, Ada. Just the blessings of the ancestors. They keep me strong so I can care for you." But Ada wasn't satisfied. That explanation, repeated so many times, felt hollow now. The next day, as Ada wandered through the bustling village market, she encountered Mama Unoi, one of the elders and a close friend of her late mother. "My dear," Mama Unoi called from beneath a shade tree, her wrinkled face breaking into a toothy grin. "Come here. Let me look at you." Ada approached with a smile. "Good morning, Mama Unoi." The old woman reached out, her fingers brushing Ada's hair. Her eyes filled with wonder and something darker. "This hair of yours, child. Just like your mother's. Beautiful, so full of life. And you look so much like her." Ada's heart warmed at the mention of her mother. "I wish I had known her better," she said softly. Mama Unoi sighed, her expression shadowed by a flicker of unease. "She was a wonderful woman. And your grandmother, oh, she was beautiful too. Too beautiful." The old woman's voice trailed off, her eyes darkening. "But what, Mama?" Ada pressed, leaning closer. Mama Unoi hesitated, then lowered her voice to a whisper. "There was a time when Mama Nea aged like the rest of us. But after your mother was born, something changed. She became young again. Too young. And it wasn't natural." A chill ran down Ada's spine. "What do you mean?" The elder's gaze turned sharp. Some say it's the hair, your mother's hair, just like yours. That night, Ada lay awake, Mama Unoi's words spinning through her mind. The hair! What could it mean? Could her grandmother's unchanging youth truly be tied to it? As the memories came flooding back, a realization struck her. Mama Nea had always insisted on caring for her hair herself, never allowing anyone else to touch it. What had once seemed an act of love now felt ominous. Unable to quell her curiosity, Ada tiptoed into the living room. In the moonlit silence, she opened the old chest where Mama Nea stored her belongings. Inside were locks of hair, some thick and black like hers, others faded with age. Her breath caught when she spotted one particular lock. Long, glossy, and unmistakably her mother's. Her heart pounded. Why would Mama Nea keep this? Suddenly, a voice pierced the silence. You shouldn't have touched that. Ada froze. Turning slowly, she saw Mama Nea standing in the doorway, her face shadowed but her eyes gleaming in the faint light. Mama, Ada stammered, her voice trembling, what is this? Mama Nea stepped forward, her expression unreadable. I told you before, Ada. There are things you do not understand. And this is one of them. But, this is Mama's hair, Ada whispered, holding the lock out. Why do you have this? Inside, her voice softened, if only for a fleeting moment. Your mother was special, Mama Nea began, her words wrapped in a strange mix of pride and sorrow. She had a gift, just like you. Her hair carried power, a power our family has wielded for generations. It's how I've been able to stay alive all these years. Ada's breath hitched in her throat. You've been using my hair this whole time? She asked, her voice trembling, disbelief painted across her face. Mama Nea nodded, her expression calm, almost resigned. I had no choice, child. Without it, I would have died long ago, and you would have been left all alone. Ada staggered back, her heart pounding so loudly she could barely hear her own voice. But why? She whispered, her voice breaking. Why would you use me like this? You don't understand, Mama Nea replied, her tone firm now, cutting through the air like a blade. This power has been passed down through our family for generations. Your mother understood this, she accepted it. And now, it's your turn. Ada's hands trembled as she clutched a lock of her mother's hair, now a symbol of pain and betrayal. What happened to Mama? She demanded, her voice rising. Did you take her life too? Mama Nea's face hardened, the softness of moments ago gone. I took what I needed to survive, she said bluntly. She was willing, just as you will be. Ada's chest tightened, tears streaming down her face. I won't let you do this to me, she cried, her voice a desperate plea. You have no choice, Mama Nea replied coldly. This is your destiny, it's in your blood. Ada felt the walls closing in, the weight of Mama Nea's power suffocating her. For years, she had felt a simmering tension beneath her grandmother's surface, but now it erupted into something terrifyingly real. She had to escape, but how? Where could she go? And more importantly, how could she protect herself from powers she barely understood? Later that day, Ada sought out Baba, the village elder. He had always been kind, his wisdom a source of solace. She poured out her story, Mama Nea's cryptic warnings, her grandmother's unnaturally youthful appearance, and the unsettling truth about the hair. Seated on the wooden floor of Baba's shrine, Ada stared into the dying flames of the fire pit, her hands shaking. The air, thick with the scent of herbs and incense, offered no comfort. Her dread grew heavier with each passing second, knowing Baba's words would change everything. At last, his voice broke through the silence, cracked and heavy with years of wisdom. "Ada," he began gravely, "the time has come for you to know the truth." His gaze bore into hers, unflinching. "Your grandmother, she's not what she seems." Ada blinked, her heart already hammering in her chest. "What do you mean? What about her?" Baba sat back, his hands resting heavily on his knees as though the weight of his words burdened him. "Your grandmother has been feeding on your youth. She fed on your mother's too, and now, she's feeding on yours." Ada gasped, the air leaving her lungs in a rush. "How?" she managed, her voice barely audible. "It's the hair," Baba explained slowly, his tone measured and somber. "When your grandmother takes a strand of your hair, whether as a blessing or under some innocent guise, she does much more. Your hair is the conduit of your life force. Through ancient, forbidden magic, she transfers your youth to herself, feeding on it like a parasite." Ada's thoughts spawn, a whirlwind of horror and disbelief. "But, my mother?" she asked, the words barely escaping her lips. "She took my mother's hair too, didn't she?" Baba nodded gravely. "Your mother died because of it. By the age of 24, she had withered into an old woman. Her youth was stolen, and now, it's your turn." The revelation hit Ada like a wave of ice. Memories of her vibrant, beautiful mother flooded back, the woman who had aged so rapidly before her death, her body racked with weakness that no healer could explain. The truth she had long suspected now stood before her, undeniable and cruel. "What can I do?" she whispered, her voice trembling with desperation. "I don't want to die like my mother. I'm only 18, I still have my whole life ahead of me." Baba sighed, rubbing his temples as though the weight of the solution was as heavy as the problem. "It won't be easy, Ada. Your grandmother's power grows stronger every time she feeds. To weaken her, you must cut her hair." Ada's eyes widened. "Cut her hair? But how?" "She's always so careful with it. She never lets anyone near it, not even me. And she always wears that scarf, hiding it away." "That's why it will be so difficult," Baba replied, his voice tinged with sorrow. "She knows the power her hair holds. You'll need to be clever, deceptive even. One wrong move, and she'll sense your intentions. If she catches you before you succeed." He didn't finish the sentence, but his silence spoke volumes. Ada left the shrine with a heart heavy with fear and determination. The weight of her task pressed down on her with every step. Her grandmother, the woman who had always seemed so loving, now felt like a stranger, a predator in disguise. Every smile, every touch, every kind word now felt like a threat. When she arrived home, Mama Nia greeted her with her usual soft, sing-song voice. "My child, you're back early." Ada forced a smile, masking the storm inside her. "Baba didn't want me to stay long," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Her grandmother stood, her smile widening. "Good. Come, sit with me. Let me braid your hair, like I used to." Ada's stomach churned. How had she not seen it before? The endless requests to braid, brush, or touch her hair now felt like the sharp claws of betrayal. "I'm tired, Grandma," she said quickly, stepping back. "Maybe tomorrow." Mama Nia's smile faltered for a split second before returning. "Of course, child. Tomorrow." That night, Ada lay in bed, unable to sleep. The ceiling above her seemed to close in, her mind a chaotic mess of memories and fears. Her mother's face appeared again and again, vibrant and full of life, then withered and broken. Ada knew she had to act, and soon. Ada's mind raced as the memories of her mother's decline flooded her thoughts. How her thick, dark hair had once shone so brightly, only to fall out in clumps, how the sparkle in her eyes had dimmed, and how her skin had aged so rapidly, faster than nature should have allowed. Her mother, only 24, had died in her sleep, a vibrant woman trapped in the frail body of someone decades older. Was this to be Ada's fate too? The same fate that had claimed her mother's life before its time? The next morning, Ada set out on a relentless search for answers. She pored over her mother's old books, seeking anything that could help her understand the mystery that had plagued their family for generations. She visited the village elders, spoke with the women who had known her grandmother, hoping to uncover the truth behind the strange events that had surrounded her grandmother's life. Slowly, painstakingly, the pieces fell into place. Her grandmother had been using dark magic for decades, her mother had been her first victim, and Ada was next. But cutting her grandmother's hair wasn't as simple as it seemed. No, it was dangerous, fraught with risks. The hair wasn't just hair, it was tied to her grandmother's very life force. If Ada didn't do it right, if she miscalculated, it could kill them both. But if she succeeded, it would sever the link, the curse would finally be broken. Weeks passed, and Ada's heart grew heavier with each passing day. Her grandmother, always so full of life, appeared to be aging in reverse. While others her age withered, her grandmother seemed to grow stronger, more vibrant. But the signs were clear, the thin streaks of gray creeping at the roots of her long, silver hair. Her stolen youth was beginning to unravel. Soon, Ada knew, her grandmother would need defeat again. Time was running out. Ada knew she had to act, but how? Her grandmother was too clever, always keeping her hair hidden beneath scarves and clothing. Any attempt to cut it would raise suspicion, and that was a risk Ada wasn't willing to take. But then, one evening, an idea struck her like a bolt of lightning: deception. That night, as her grandmother prepared for bed, Ada approached her, trying to mask the fear in her voice. "Grandma, let me braid your hair tonight. It's been so long since we've had time like this, just the two of us," she said softly. Her grandmother eyed her with suspicion for a moment, but then, as if deciding there was no harm, she nodded. "All right, Ada. But be careful, my hair is delicate." Ada's hands shook as she ran the wooden comb through the silver strands of her grandmother's hair. It had been so long since she had even seen it, every second felt like an eternity. She had hidden a pair of scissors in her dress, waiting for the right moment. Her grandmother, lulled into a peaceful state by the rhythmic motion of the comb, began to hum softly to herself. Ada's breath caught in her throat. This was it. She seized the moment, snipping a small section of hair. The strands fell to the floor, but as they did, they pulsed with an eerie energy. Her grandmother gasped, her hand flying to her head in shock. "What? What have you done?" she shrieked, her voice twisting with fury. Ada leaped back, her heart pounding in her chest. "I'm sorry, Grandma. It was an accident." Her grandmother's face contorted, her eyes darkening as the gray streaks in her hair deepened, and her skin began to wrinkle before Ada's very eyes. "You wretched girl," she screeched, lunging toward her, but it was too late, her strength was fading, and the curse was unraveling. Ada dashed out of the room, her heart racing as she fled through the house. She knew this was only the beginning. Her grandmother would not let her go easily, but in that moment, as she ran through the village, Ada felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: relief. The curse had finally been broken. But at what cost? The next day, Baba summoned her back to his shrine. His face was grim, more solemn than usual. "Ada," he began, his voice heavy, "the curse has been weakened, but it's not over." Ada froze. "What do you mean?" "I cut her hair." "Isn't that enough?" Baba shook his head, his gaze filled with sorrow. "No, child. It's not enough. There's one final thing you must do to break the curse completely. You must destroy the source of the magic, the hair. The strands you cut are still dangerous. Her power still lingers. Ada's heart sank. Her grandmother's hair had always been precious to her, her most prized possession. And now, Ada was being asked to destroy it. But she knew, deep down, that if she didn't act quickly, she would never be free. The final confrontation with her grandmother loomed ahead, darker than anything Ada had ever faced. The weight of what she had to do was crushing, but there was no turning back. Would she find the strength to sever the last thread of her grandmother's magic? Or would she too fall victim to the curse that had claimed her family for generations? As the story twisted and turned, Ada's journey became one of survival, sacrifice, and the power of family secrets, secrets that had been hidden in plain sight all along.